friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello, I'm Laura. When you come here, you can usually find me making something. Subscribe to follow along and to join in on this supportive, crafty community. Okay, so for today, I want to get started on the first project of Finish It February. This month, I'm trying to get 4 big garment projects done that I've had pieces worked on. Anyway, for more info on that, there's a video in the iCard. But what we're working on today is going to be the Natural Rainbow Cardigan. Let me just tell you a little bit about it. So I started this project sometime in 2019. It's basically a whole bunch of yarn that I naturally dyed with plants. We've got some onion skins mordanted with iron, onion skins mordanted with alum, avocado, pits, Concord grapes, and avocados. We've got lots of different plant mixes here, but basically I started this in 2019 at some point, and I just sort of fell off with it. So I'm gonna get it finished. Right now I have most of the back piece done. I just have to do the neck shaping part of the back piece. I also have 1 sleeve done, so I just have to make a copy. I need to make 1 more of the sleeve. And I have 1 of the front panels done, so I just have to make 1 more of the front panels. So that's the better part of a tutorial. I can teach you how to do the front panel and the sleeve, and I'll do a little talk through of what I did for the back panel so that you can make it too if you want to. For this project, I worked almost entirely in single crochet. I did the regular rib stitch, which is a front post, back post repeat. But for the actual body portion, I used a 4.5mm hook and single crochet. So it's got a bit of a stiffness to the fabric. I kind of like that though, because I think it'll act more like a jacket, less like just a sweater. I think it'll be a nice spring jacket. So I'm hoping to add some ribbing maybe around the neck to make it kind of feel like a bomber jacket, but also like a cardigan. Somewhere between a cardigan and a bomber jacket is kind of where my head is at with this one. So you're going to need a couple of things. Let's get into it. So first things first, you're gonna need yarn. I'm using, like I said already multiple times, custom dyed yarn. I'm using Briggs & Little Regal wool in washed white, I believe was the original color, and then I dyed with a variety of plants. As I go through and change colors, I'll try to remember which plants are which, and I'll let you know when we get into each color. But yeah, that's what I'm using. I'm imagining that this is taking about 7 or 8 balls of that yarn. Let's say 7 balls of that yarn, but that's for like a ladies medium. If you want to go up in size, which I'll talk through how you're going to do that, you'll probably need more yarn. You're also going to need a crochet hook. Like I said, I used a 4.5mm crochet hook. If you go with a different size crochet hook, it's going to make your fabric either stiffer if you go with a smaller crochet hook, it's going to make your fabric more loose if you go with a larger crochet hook, and it's going to change the size up a little bit. Usually I say you can go like 0.5 in either direction without having a huge change on any of my things anyway. So 4.5mm hook. You'll also need scissors, a yarn needle, and a measuring tape. So grab all your stuff and I lied. One more thing before we get started. I also have the full written pattern. It's already on Patreon for all of my patrons. Starting at $2 a month, you get all of my written bullet journal patterns, just like this one. You also get exclusive access to the Last Minute Laura Discord server, and that's where we share pictures, we ask questions, we just chat. It's a really nice community full of crafty people, and I invite you to join. Also, if you join Patreon, you'll also get a thank you at the end of every video. So join if you can. If you can't, that's totally okay too. Okay, now for real, let's start. Okay, so we're gonna start with the sleeve. I like starting with sleeves because they're a little bit quicker than the body pieces, so that's what we're gonna do. This sleeve is from the cuff up to the armpit. So the cuff is going to be a nice long cuff for this sleeve, and then we're going to do a bunch of increases. We're going to go straight for quite some time. We're going to have a little bit more increase, and then we're going to straighten off at the end. That is going to leave us with a really nice shape for our final sleeve. A nice cozy sleeve size. It'll be nice, it'll fit well. So I am going to get started now. We're going to start, as you can see, with the sort of army green. This one is dyed with onion skins, and the onion skin bath was manipulated with iron water solution, which is how the yellow from the onion skins turned to this sort of army green. So for the sleeve, we are going to start with a chain of 41. Then we're going to double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook and double crochet across. So 1, 2, 3, 40, and 41. So normally I do a chain of 33 for most of my sleeves. We're doing 41 because we have a much smaller hook this time. The 4.5mm hook is going to mean a much shorter chain when if we did 33, it wouldn't be long enough to reach around my wrist. So 41 will give you probably somewhere between a small and a medium. So I'm going to double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook, 1, 2, 3, 4, and double crochet across. So to change the size of the cuff, if you check out the 41 and it ends up being too short to make it around your wrist, increase in groups of 6. So that is going to just keep it so that the instructions stay the same for the sleeve. So if you're doing like an extra small, maybe start with a chain of 35. If you're doing something like a large, you might want to start with a chain of 59. Just move in groups of 6, starting from 35 being like extra small. I'm doing 41. I'm sorry if that was very confusing, but that's how you change the size for this sleeve. Okay, I made it to the end. Now I'm going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and turn. So now we're on row number 2. For row 2, we're going to do the regular rib stitch that I do for many of my sweater patterns. That is a front post double crochet followed by a back post double crochet. If you don't know what that is, I will link tutorials to all of the stitches that I'm going to use in the description box and also in the top corner, the iCard. So if you don't know how to do a front post double crochet or a back post double crochet, do not fret. Just check the iCard or the description and then you can figure out that stitch before you come and get started on this super fun cardigan. So I am just going to do that repeat all the way across, front post double crochet, back post double crochet, and at the end of the row I am going to chain 2 and turn. And now I'm at the end of row number 2. I'm going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and I'm going to turn, and now I'm going to be doing the inverse of what I started with. So rather than starting with a front post double crochet on row number 3, I'm going to start with a back post double crochet. This is going to keep those posts nice and consistent so it doesn't come out looking like a basket weave stitch, rather it comes out looking like a ribbed stitch. So first stitch will be a back post double crochet, second stitch will be a front post double crochet. And I'm just going to follow what the ribs already show. So you can see I just did a front post double crochet here. The next stitch is already pulled back, so I can do a back post double crochet and just follow what it shows me to do. So the next one you can see it's pulled forward, so we're going to pull it forward. Even though on the previous row, that forward pulled one would have been a back post double crochet. So don't get too confused with all of my weird explanations. Just do front post double crochet, back post double crochet for the first row, and then back post double crochet, front post double crochet for the second row of the rib stitch. Then I am going to continue this rib stitch pattern. So the next row I'm going to start again with my front post double crochet. I'm going to do it all the way till row number 10. So from row 4 all the way up to 10, I am going to be repeating rows number 2 and 3. So I'm just going to zip through that. You can go a little bit shorter if you want. I usually make mine about 5 rows, but I like this this modification, making the cuff a little bit longer. It just makes it, I don't know, it looks a little bit different and I like it. So if you don't want to go so long, that's totally okay. You can stop at 5 rows, you could stop at 6 rows. Oh, actually no, keep it even rows for this, that way my instructions will maintain the same, they will stay the same. So work in even rows. If you don't want it to be as long as mine, you could stop at row number 4, or row number 6, 8, or 10. I would say don't go too much beyond 10 though, because this is a narrow cuff and I don't think it would be comfortable on your forearm, so you still want it to be behaving like a cuff. Okay, that's all the instructions for there. I'm going to meet you at the end of this cuff part. Okay, so I'm just finishing up my last row of ribbed stitch. And so I'm gonna cut my yarn and I'm gonna transition into the next color, which is gonna be this dark brown. So to transition colors, I start my last double crochet stitch, pull up my first loop, and then with the same yarn, go through 2 loops, and I have 2 loops left on the hook. That's when I will yarn over with my new yarn and pull both pieces through. And then I'm just gonna chain 1 and turn. All right, so for this first row, I am going to start with single crochets all the way across. I'm going to put my hook into the space between the double crochets, that big gap between the 2 stitches. So I'm just going to do that now. I'm gonna single crochet all the way across. Just 1 single crochet in each stitch. I'm holding the tails of those 2 pieces of yarn. I'm holding them close to the actual fabric, and that is allowing me to single crochet over them so I won't have to weave in that end later. Okay, so I made it to the end of that first row of single crochet. I'm gonna chain 1 and turn. By the way, the yarn that I'm using right now was dyed with black walnuts. I mordanted the wool with iron and alum, just so you know for the color. Now that we are at row number 13? No, 12. So I'm gonna just start from 1 again because the cuff, it's gonna math me out weird. So we're on the second row of the body part of the sleeve, and I am going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1 and 2, and I'm going to single crochet across normal, and then I'm gonna do 2 single crochets in the last stitch. At the end of this row, I'm going to be changing colors again. If you're not, then you could just chain 1 and turn. All right, I'm on my last stitch, and I'm gonna just switch yarn colors again, changing it this time to this beautiful bright yellow. This yellow is onion skins. Mordanted the yarn, pre-mordanted the yarn with alum. I think I modified it with some wood ash solution, but I can't be sure. It was a while ago. All right, so now for the next row, I'm just going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch across. Now all the way up to row number 22, so remember there's 10 rows of cuff, so from row 11 until 22, we're going to be repeating that increase. So every other row we're going to have 2 single crochet stitches in the first stitch and 2 single crochet stitches in the last stitch, otherwise single crochet across. The other row will be just single crochet across. So we're going to do that, that pattern. Row 11 is just single crochet. So row 11, 13, 15, 17, 19, 21, those will all be regular single crochet across rows, and all of the even rows are going to be increase rows. So I hope that is clear, but I am just going to get moving through that, and once I have gotten to row number 22, I am going to come back and we'll talk about what we're going to do next, but that is going to be the increase, the main increase for our sleeve. Hey friends, so it's Editing Laura here. My microphone cut out for some part of the instructions for the sleeve. I'm just gonna let you know, from row 22 until row 39, you're just gonna be single crochet across, no more increases. Hey CJ. That's the only instruction that I missed, so there it is. Okay, so I'm just finishing the last stitch of row number 39. I'm now doing row number 40. I'm not switching colors. I switched from black walnut to avocado and Concord grape, and then I moved up to avocado on its own. Isn't that a beautiful pink? It's avocado pits. And then the next one is onion skins, pre-mordanted and with alum, and then the green is modified with iron. Isn't that cool how it pooled? Okay, now I've done a few rows of the blue and avocado again, the Concord grape avocado. So now I'm on row number 40. For row number 40, I'm gonna do 2 single crochets in the first stitch and 2 single crochets in the last stitch, otherwise single crochet across. At the end of the row, chain 1 and turn. And if you haven't yet, I would like to invite you to subscribe to the channel and join on this super fun, crafty, planty journey with me. And don't forget to like the video if you're new here. If you're not new here, I hope you already liked the video. And I'm sure I've already said this, but don't forget to check out the links in my description. I have all of the tutorials that you'll need in order to make this sweater. So that's a single crochet tutorial, a double crochet tutorial, as well as a front post and back post double crochet tutorial. Those are all linked in the description and in the iCard. But also check out the link to my Patreon. For $2 a month, you get access to all of my written bullet journal patterns, and you also get access to the group Discord, which means you can share photos of your pets, photos of your works in progress, ask questions to a live community of awesome people who are always willing to help and always willing to have a chat. So definitely check that out. It's just $2 a month and you get all of that. If you move up to $5 a month, you also get the videos a day early. So definitely consider it if you've got the means and you've got the interest. The links are in the description. Patreon.com/lastminutelaura. Okay, so now I'm at the end of row number 40. I'm gonna do 2 single crochets in the last stitch there. And then I'll do my chain 1 and turn. And for row number 41, we're going to just single crochet across at the end of the row, chain 1 and turn. And then from rows number 42 until row 51, we're going to repeat that. So we're gonna be doing this increase every other row. It's gonna be the same angle of increase that we did at the beginning. So every other row, you're putting 2 stitches in the first and last stitch, otherwise single crochet across. And then it's just going to be from 52 to 70, we're gonna do some single crochet across, and that's going to finish off our sleeve. So I am going to zoom through this increase portion, and when I get to row number 51, I'll jump back here and show you what it's looking like before we get into the last bit. Okay, so I'm finishing row number 51 now. I'm going to cut my yarn here and reattach with my new color. And now from row number 52 all the way to row number 70, I'm just gonna single crochet across. Nothing too fancy. It's gonna be easy peasy from here on out. It's just gonna be straight across single crochets. So I'm gonna zoom through that. This sleeve should measure, the length it should measure is to the top of your shoulder. If you were like to cut your arm off, straight off at the shoulder, wherever that is how long the sleeve should be. Wow, that doesn't make sense. It makes sense in my head. Basically, you want the sleeve to go from your wrist bone all the way up to the top of your shoulder. For me, that should be about 70 rows. If you need it to be more rows, make it more rows. I doubt you'll need it to be less, but if you need it less, go less. And if you are gonna make it longer, what I would just recommend is this increase portion, make it at like the last few rows of your crochets. Okay, so if you're making a larger or smaller sweater than me and you need longer sleeves, then you will want to increase your rows 23 to 39. In that space, you could add rows or take a few rows away if it's too long. But now, like I said, I'm just gonna go to row number 70, single crochet. Okay friends, so I've finished the sleeve. I ended up with 88 rows. I know I said go up to row number 70, but turns out my arms were a little longer than I thought, and when I fitted it into the final design, it wasn't quite enough. So I ended up going up to row number 88. So fear not if you need to make your sleeve a bunch longer, it's probable. But now I wanted to show you the measurements of the finished sleeve before we move into the front body panel. So let's start with the cuff. The cuff, it's a little longer. Remember, we did 10 rows there. And that, just the cuff is 3 inches or 8 centimeters by 8 inches or about 20 centimeters. So that is the cuff size. And then we do the increase. We do 12 rows where we are doing some increases. It ends up being 6 rows of actual increases. Wow. So the width of the sleeve at that point is going to be 13 inches or about 33 centimeters. And then we're going to go on that straight work for a little while, which ends up being about 9 inches or 22 centimeters of working straight. And then we go back into increases for another 10 rows, and the longest, widest part of the sleeve, about 16.5 inches, 42 centimeters. When the sleeve is folded over, we've got the increase up by the armpit, then we have the increase by the cuff. The full length of the sleeve is 19 inches or about 48 centimeters. So that is the length of my sleeve. So I've finished both my sleeves now. So now it's time to move on to the front body piece in the pattern. We've done this. I'm still going to explain how to do the top portion of this bad boy, and now we're going to make this one. All right, so here is what we're going to be doing next, the body piece. So fun about this is it's actually the exact same pattern, stitch for stitch, as the sleeve. Until row 54, we're going to be doing the exact same thing as the sleeve. So I'm actually going to not reteach that because it's going to be the band again, as well as the colored blocks that I've done, the exact same pattern all the way up to there. So I'm going to get work done on my body piece up to here, and when I finish my other body piece to this point, I'll come back to explain how we're going to do this decrease, how we're going to do this arm shaping here. So I'm going to get started on that now, and I'll meet you back here once I get up to where we're going to start that decrease. I'm going to start by chaining up 1, and this row, number 55, I am going to just single crochet across. I know I said just do it up to 54, but 55 is with a new color. So I'm going to single crochet across on row number 55. And on 56, we're going to be doing something in order to start our decrease. All right, so I'm at the end of this row now. I'm going to chain 1 and turn at the end of the row. And now for this next row is where we're going to begin our decreases for the neckline. Okay, so for this row, we're going to single crochet across all the way to the end. But at the end of this row, do not chain 1. Just turn your work. And here I am at the last stitch. So I'm going to finish my single crochet. I'm not going to chain 1. I'm just going to turn the work around. And now I'm going to skip doing a single crochet in that first stitch, and I'm going to work into the second stitch, a regular single crochet, but just into the second stitch, and then single crochet across. At the end of this row, chain 1 and turn. All right, so I'm just at the end of the row. I'm going to chain 1, turn it around, and then we're going to single crochet across, but at the end of this row, we are not going to chain 1. We're just going to turn. This decrease is going to be repeated over and over and over and over again, all the way up until the shoulder shaping. We will be doing arm shaping at one point too, but this decrease is going to just continue forever. Well, not forever, until there's only 10 stitches left. We're going to keep doing this decrease. I'll show you what that looks like. You can see at first it's kind of a subtle decrease, but over many rows it goes up, kind of in like a sweater vest V. So we're going to keep going with that decrease. I'm going to be changing colors to this mottled green and tan color from the blue, but we're going to keep on this decrease trend for 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 more rows before we're going to get into the arm shaping. So do 14 rows or 7 rows of decrease, because we'll do a row with a decrease, a regular row, a row with a decrease, a regular row, for 14 rows here before we're going to get into this area where we're going to shape for that armhole. So I'm going to do that now. It's the exact same decrease though. So for one row, you single crochet across, chain 1 and turn. For the next row, you single crochet across, do not chain 1, turn, skip the first stitch, single crochet across and turn, chain 1, single crochet across, do not chain one, turn, skip the first stitch. It's just a repeat of the same. So one side is going to be moving up straight and the other side is going to be moving up with a decrease. If you find that the final measurement of this garment is too short, like if it's a little bit cropped for you, you can extend the length of the pullover in the midsection prior to starting the decrease. That's where you want to add rows if you want to make the cardigan longer. At this point where we start the decrease, this is not where you'd want to add any length to your cardigan. It will screw up your measurements. It'll screw up how your arm, how your sleeve fits into the armhole. So if you want to make it longer, before this step, you should be making it longer. Same thing if you would like to shorten it. I would shorten it any row before where the decrease begins. So I'll show you here one more time what I'm doing. I'm just at the end of that row. So I'm gonna do my last single crochet, and then I'm not gonna chain one, I'll just turn my work. Then I'm gonna skip that first stitch, I'm gonna single crochet into the second stitch. And it's starting to show now. You can see the bit of a moderate decrease we've got started there. Not super sharp, which is good. We want it to be a nice moderate decrease. So I'm gonna just zoom through this decrease part for the next 14 rows until it's time to get to my arm shaping. For those of you counting rows, we are going to be doing this decrease until row 66. That's where we're going to be adding in the arm shaping. So I will see you when I get to row number 66. All right, so I just finished that last row of the 14 decreases. I'm still on a decrease side though, so I'm not gonna chain one. I'm just gonna turn. And here is where we're going to be doing a little bit of a different thing. So we're gonna count in from one end 15 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. On that 15th stitch, I'm just gonna mark it with a stitch marker so I know when to stop. We're going to single crochet to that stitch marker, and here is where we're gonna chain one and turn. And from this point on, you can see with the piece I've already finished, we're gonna just keep decreasing on one side and we're gonna work the other side up straight all the way until there's only 10 stitches left in the row. So for that first row, what it's gonna look like is just single crochet up to the stitch marker and then chain one and turn. There we go. So I'll chain one and turn. And from this point on, it's just that decrease on one side and work up straight on the other till there's 10 stitches left. Okay, and now I'm at the end of another decrease row. So I'm gonna skip the first stitch, no chain one at the end of that row, skip the first stitch, do a single crochet into the second, and move across to the end of the new row, chain one and turn. I'm gonna zoom through this next part up until the decrease, until I hit 10 stitches, and I will come back when I've hit 10 stitches to show you what we're gonna do next. All right, so I've finished my body piece now, and I'm just going to take you through the measurements of that. The sleeve, it's the same measurements as the sleeve moving from the beginning. So we've got the 3 inches for the band by 8 inches for the band. We expand up to, well, on this one it's 12 inches. It should be 14 because mine is not, my gauge was a little bit off for this one. 14 inches, and then we go up to the decrease point, the full length of the body piece. Sorry, you can't see the entirety of it. It's about 22 inches long. So 22 inches long. In the widest point for mine, it is, on this 12 inches, it should be 14 inches, but that's neither here nor there. The arm shaping is the exact same amount of stitches that we're using for the back piece. And then the decrease is where the armpit starts. Mine is about 6 inches. So I don't know if that will help you. The shoulder shaping portion for me is about 7 inches. Probably I'll be adding just a little bit more, like one more row to make it 7.5, 8 inches, just so that it'll line up with the back piece, because I think that is what we're gonna need to do. So now that I've finished this body portion, I only have one more piece left to do. So let me get started on that. I'm gonna talk you through how I did it because it's already finished. That was the one piece I already had fully finished. So let's move on to the back piece. And hey, don't forget to like the video if you haven't yet. Oh, here is the back piece. It's so pretty. This one I made a very long time ago. So again, for this one, the band is 3 inches, but it is 3 inches by about 16 inches. 3 inches by 16 inches, or 7 centimeters by about 42 centimeters. For the back, we're going to be doing, again, the exact same repeat as the sleeve, as in the increase is going to be the same as how the sleeve increased, but we're going to begin with a chain of 77 for this bottom band. That is for like a size small. So if you wanted to go for a medium, you could do an 83 as your first chain. A large, I would say probably an 89 to 95. Just work in chunks of 6 stitches for this one. But then after the 10 rows of the band, we're going to be doing 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Just like the sleeve, we're gonna do 12 rows where we increase 1 stitch every other row. So we're going to do, for row number 1 after the band, it'll just be single crochet across. Row number 2 will have an increase in the first and last stitch of the row. Then the third row will be a regular single crochet. The next row will have an increase at either end. Next row normal, next row increase at either end. And we're gonna do that all the way until we've done 12 rows after the band. Then we're going to work up straight, no more increases. All the way up until row 66, we'll be working straight. And then after that, I'm going to reattach my yarn on the 15th stitch. And then I'm going to stitch mark at the other end at the 15th to last stitch. And then for all the way up till row number 98, we will just be working single crochet across at that reduced number of stitches with 15 on either end. And at 98, that's where I'm coming back in with you to do the actual finishing of this, this piece. So I hope that helped you. If you don't understand any of what I just said, I'm gonna link another crochet tutorial for a different sweater that uses a very similar pattern, but where I actually make the back piece. Since this is part of Finish It February, I already had this piece. I'm finishing this sweater, so I already had this piece made before the tutorial started, but I hope that makes sense to you. And I'm on row number 98, so I'm going to chain up 1 and bring us to row number 99. So I'm going to single crochet into the first 18 stitches for this second last row. 1, 2, 18. Oh, look at that, and I just have barely any yarn left. And then I'm not going to chain 1, I'm just going to turn the project, and now we are on row number 100, I believe. Yes, 100. So I am just going to get my yarn that matches because I'm out of yarn. I'm going to skip that first stitch, then I'm going to slip stitch into the second stitch there, slip stitch into the third stitch, and what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch until we have the same number of stitches that you did when you finished your front panel. So for me, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So I finished with 10. So I'm gonna be slip stitching into 8 stitches total. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. So then I'll chain up 1, and then I'm just going to single crochet across. And that is just going to give us a little bit of a stair step for that back piece. So there's gonna be that first row that comes all the way up to 18, and then the second row only goes to the 10, and this is where we're going to be attaching it to that front panel. But this little step, we'll be doing some crochet around it, so you're not going to see that big angle that we've got there. But basically this is just going to create a bit of a gradual scoop for the back of the cardigan. So that's it. What I'm going to do is give myself a bit of a longer tail, and that's going to allow me to use the tail to actually sew the shoulders together. So I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side, and there we go. I'll pull one more loop through and give myself a nice long tail. And that is it for the body. So again, Sorry that I already had this piece done before I started this tutorial, but that's just how it happened for this time. Now I'm just going to trim all of my ends, weave all of my ends, and then it's time for assembly. So I'll see you on the floor so I can show you how we're going to be putting this thing together. Let's do it. All right, where's that body piece? All right, so I've got these things. So for the back, I'll have it laid out, and then I'm going to attach the top pieces, since the final cardigan is going to look like that, right? So that means I need to attach the shoulders with it open like this. So I'm going to attach those shoulders. I'm going to single crochet them together, and after I attach those shoulders, I'll grab the sleeves and I will use blanket stitches to sew them into place. And after everything is put together that way, I'll fold it over like I do with most of my sweater patterns. Then I will take, in single crochet, I will do along the arm and then down the side of the body. And then we'll just turn it inside out and we will have a finished cardigan. So let's do that. So there's my back piece. I'm gonna try and pick a right side and a wrong side to make it a little bit prettier at the end. Okay, so this is gonna be the inside of the sweater, just so that I can hide my tail ends. So I'm gonna single crochet. I left a really long tail on the top of my shoulders for the sleeve part, or for the front body piece, excuse me. So I'm just gonna stick my hook through the first stitch on the shoulder and the first stitch on the back piece. I'm just gonna yarn over and pull through, and then I'm gonna chain up one, and then this part's pretty easy, just single crochet across. You could slip stitch, you could do a blanket stitch with sewing. You've got lots of options here. I think a single crochet looks really nice and neat though. And also, since this is like an area of your sweater that's gonna get a lot of wear and tear to it, like the shoulders are getting pulled on, it gets a lot of movement. So it's nice to have the single crochet because I feel like it's just a little more secure. Now I'm gonna do the same thing with the other front piece. And there we go. Second shoulder done, pull that through. And now it's time to spread these things out and get our our sleeves, excuse me, sewn in. So let me just set up for that. Good news and bad news. Good news, I had enough yarn. Bad news, the sleeve wasn't long enough. So I had said 88 rows. I ended up using 98 rows. I did another 10 rows in a couple other colors that I had a few bits of extra yarn for. So go as many rows as you need for it to be the length of, from the top of your shoulder. Where is my yarn needle? There it is. From the top of your shoulder all the way to your, like your hand, your wrist. But for me, that ended up actually being 98 rows. So apologies everybody, but the number of rows is not that important. As long as you make it long enough for you, then it's fine, and I did, so all is well. So now I'm going to be sewing this sleeve in. I have to pick an ugly side and a pretty side. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is grab a couple of, not a couple, just one really long piece of yarn. I'm gonna double it up, and then I'm going to blanket stitch along the entire edge. Okay, so to get myself started, I am gonna just zoom through the actual blanket stitch part, but this is a tip for you. Use stitch markers or pieces of yarn and tie your pieces together at the corners. Okay, put a stitch marker at the corner to attach your sleeve, and then count out your rows, and at 15 rows on this sleeve, connect that to the arm shaping down here, and that'll just make it so that you keep your stitches lined up nicely. All right, so I will add a tutorial in here in the iCard and the description for the blanket stitch. I'll give you a little bit here, but most of it I'm gonna zoom through just because it's been repeated 400 million times on my channel. But I like using a blanket stitch for this part because it's not lining up stitches exactly, and I don't like risking putting my hook in the wrong place if I'm doing crochets because it's more visible, I find. But if you want to do single crochets or slip stitches or whatever, you can use whatever you want to put it together, but I like blanket stitches. I'm so excited. It's gonna be so cool. I'm so excited for this sweater. I was excited when I made the first piece like a year ago, and I'm so excited that it's almost done. All right, so here we go. I've got a long strand of yarn on my yarn needle. I'm gonna start by just putting my needle through the first row where I've already attached and through the first stitch. And this stitch, I'm just gonna tie a knot. Keep your yarn always going in one direction, like off to the right here. Then I'm gonna go into the next row up and into the second stitch here. And then since your yarn is over to the right like this, there's this big loop. Let your needle come up through that loop and then pull the yarn all the way through. And when you pull it nice and snug, I'm not gonna go too tight because it'll be more visible the tighter you go with it. But once you pull it nice and snug, it creates a blanket stitch. The first one, don't worry about it. The first one never works. And then next, we'll go to the next row with put the needle in, then I'll go to the next stitch on the other piece. Yarn over to the right. Then I will pull up the needle through. Next row, needle into the next stitch, up through that loop. And then just pull it nice and tight. Not too tight though, because if you see how tight I have it right here, there's still a lot of give to it. If I were to yank on it as hard as I can, you can see that it's gonna cause puckering in the actual final garment. So just be aware, don't go too tight. All right, next row, picking up one of the rows and then picking up the stitch right next to it, pulling through that loop. And I'm just gonna do that all the way around for this entire seam. And I'm gonna take my time so that I make sure that my stitches are lining up with a row. And that'll be the same when we move across the top. Each one of these stitches will match up with a row. If it doesn't, you don't need to panic. You can stick your needle wherever it goes, wherever it'll fit. If you don't have the exact number of stitches as you have rows, it's okay. It's not gonna be super noticeable. It's just an easy way to keep it organized in your head, is to remember 1 stitch per row, 1 stitch per stitch. So there's that. I'm just gonna move through this entire sleeve now, stitching the entire thing together. And when I get all the way around, I'll show you what it looks like on both sides. See you then. All right, I have finished with my blanket stitching around to get the sleeve attached. So now my sleeves are attached. I've done both sides. And now what we're gonna do is fold the garment so that the sleeve is in half. We still want the seam to be on the outside. We want to be working on the sleeve because we're going to start now single crocheting this part together. We're going to single crochet the whole sleeve, and then we're going to turn and single crochet down the body all the way to the bottom cuff. So I'm going to use 2 colors of yarn for this just because I want to use a light color for the majority. But since the cuff is so dark, I'm gonna use the actual color I used for the cuff to single crochet the cuff together. So to begin, I'm gonna use my hook and I'm just gonna stick it into the first chain that has a double crochet in the first row. And I'm gonna use that to pull the tail from the actual cuff as well as my working yarn. I'm gonna pull a loop through. And then I'm going to insert into the first row on both sides. And I'm not going to use the tail yarn now. I'm only going to use my working yarn. And I'm just going to complete a single crochet through that first stitch. And I'm going to do that for the next row as well, and all the rows up of the cuff, just regular single crocheting both sides together. It's not super important that you're doing perfect even stitches in terms of matching up the rows, as long as by the time you get to the next color change, your cuff is lined up. That's what matters. You can still use blanket stitches for this part if that makes you more comfortable. I just like single crochets for this part. I think it's easy to do this part in single crochet, but it's also easy to do in blanket stitch, so if you choose to do that, that's totally good as well. So I will see you when I get to the point where I am finished single crocheting both sides together, both arms, and then it's going to be time to do the sort of collar area and finishing stitches, and then we're going to be done. Also, if you haven't yet done so, please subscribe and like the video. Subscribe because I put out new videos fairly frequently, and for the month of February, we're going to be putting out 5 videos this month. So 5 tutorials, as well as 10 other live streams. Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays is when you're going to be able to find new fresh content here. So subscribe for that, turn on your notification bell so that YouTube actually lets you know that my stuff has come out, and also like the video so that I know that you like this kind of content. Let me know what you're looking for if this isn't what you're looking for, so that I can make things that you actually want to learn how to make. Ooh, also, I have more information. This morning, I went out to go feed my chickens, and I saw kitty cat paw prints along the side of our house again. I thought we only had one stray cat around here, who we have now got in our home, a pregnant stray cat that we've named Peekaboo. She still hasn't had kittens, for those of you who are wondering. But anyway, we've got another stray cat somewhere. I haven't seen the cat yet. But I did find the paw prints, and the cat is right around the house, so I think I'm gonna leave out a can of cat food tonight and see if I can catch a glimpse of the elusive new kitty that's around our area. I know none of my immediate neighbors have a cat, so I know that it's at least a wandering cat. Maybe not a stray, but still, an extra can of cat food isn't gonna hurt it. So there's some fun news while you watch me speed through crocheting these parts of the assembly. Okay, that's all I've got for that. I will see you when I finish the sleeve and body crochet together part. Alrighty, and there I am right at the last stitch. Just gonna pull my last stitch through there, and then I'll have to just weave in those ends, but ta-da! Everything is now sewn together. So once I weave in those ends there, we're gonna be pretty much done with this part. At this point, I would recommend you go and try on your sweater if you're making one along with me. I'm gonna go try it on, and I'll show you what it's looking like right now. It's not done yet, but it's almost done. Now what we're gonna have to do is figure out something for this raw edge here. We're gonna do some kind of thing. So I'm gonna go try it on and see how it's looking, and then we'll get that done. Alright, so that's what we're looking like right now. So what we're gonna have to do is bring this neckline in a little bit. I think we'll do some rib stitch maybe? Sleeves are good length, really cute. It goes around, which is great. It's got a little bit of volume here right now, but once I wash it and block it, I feel like that's gonna sit a little bit nicer. But pretty much what I need is something to bring this neckline in. I'm thinking about that much, so I'll probably do maybe this rib stitched, but maybe the front post, or front loops only, back loops only. I haven't decided yet. We'll have to see. But so far, I think it's pretty cute. What do you think? All right, let's get it done. All right, so I think I'm gonna start with just a row of single crochet around all of the raw edges. And I'm gonna use a dark color to begin with, and then I'm gonna switch in. These are the colors that I have the most left of. So these are the colors we're gonna be working with. But I think I'll start off with this dark brown, because I think it'll be a nice little outline color. And I'm just gonna be doing single crochet. Actually, I might not even do it on the rib stitch, because the rib is kind of perfect. It's the perfect size. So I think I'll start at the body here. So I'm gonna just start by pulling up a loop, then I'm gonna do a chain 1, and now I'm just gonna single crochet 1 stitch for every row, all the way around until I'm back at the other side of the front piece. All right, there is my last stitch for that part. I'm gonna pull my thing through and I'll weave that end in. Now here's my idea for the rest. I've thought of an idea while I was doing that crochet. So, since this whole front part is perfect, we don't need to add any fabric here, I'm not going to keep working on this part. Instead, where the decrease begins, that's where I'm gonna start now. I'm gonna do a color, but I think what I'm gonna do is each time I come back, I'm gonna leave one stitch unworked. And I think that's going to fill in this space without having it come out like a big rectangle. I kind of wanna like make a scoop that has like a triangle coming out. So what I hope, if I'm understanding what I'm thinking, then I'm gonna use, I think I'll use this. This is a nice color. And I'm gonna attach my yarn to the brown outline we did. I'm gonna attach it where the decrease begins. And I'm gonna do a row of single crochet, but I have a plan where when I get up to the shoulder, so when I get to the color that the shoulder begins at, I'm gonna do double crochets from here. So I think I'll do double crochets from here all the way around the neck until I get back to that color, and then single crochet. And I think that will create the curve I'm looking for. But I'm gonna start with my single crochets, and I'll just single crochet up to, maybe even up to the yellow, where I switch to the yellow. I'm gonna do 31 single crochets from where the decrease begins, and from there I'm going to do 31 single crochets up until where the decrease begins. Then I'm switching to double crochet now, and I'm gonna double crochet all around that back part of the neck until I come back down to where the yellow, I'm calling this yellow by the way, where the yellow ends. So on the other side is when I'll switch back to single crochet to keep it symmetrical. And that's gonna create a little bit of a collar of some sort. Hopefully, that's the plan. Okay, I made it all the way around to the other side. Now I'm gonna switch back to single crochet, and I'm gonna single crochet down to where the decreasing begins. Then I'm going to not chain one, but I am gonna turn around. And I'm actually gonna follow the same decrease rule that we did for the front body piece. That's what I've decided. So I'm gonna turn without chaining one, and then I'm gonna skip the first single crochet, and I'm gonna single crochet into the second one. And there we go. Like I said, I'm gonna not chain one, just turn. And I think I'll stick with this yellow yarn as long as I can. Now I've turned around, I'm gonna skip that first single crochet, and I'm gonna single crochet into the second single crochet, and I'm gonna single crochet all the way to the first double crochet. So I'm gonna single crochet in that first double crochet stitch, and then I'll switch into my double crochet. I'll show you what I mean. Here we are. I've got 2 single crochets left, and then it goes into a double crochet. So what I'm gonna do is single crochet into that first double crochet, and now we're gonna work in double crochets, but I'm going to do front post, back post for the whole way around. Because we did double crochets, we've set ourselves up for that. So I'm gonna just do front post, back post, double crochets. That's going to draw in this neckline a little bit, give it a little bit of a elastic property, I wanna say, but also it'll match it up a little bit better with the cuffs and the bottom of the cardigan. So I'm just gonna front post, back post, double crochet all the way around. When I get to the other side, I'm going to finish my front post double crochet early by 1 double crochet, and then we'll switch back to single crochet for the rest of the row. So I'll put a marker just so I don't forget that last double crochet, we're gonna single crochet into it. We're not gonna treat that one with our back post, front post. You don't have to do this front post, back post part if you want. You can just do double crochets here. I just think this is going to tie it together a little bit better, and it's also going to kind of tighten the neckline up. I noticed it was a little bit wide, I want to say, on my shoulders, and I think this will correct that. And I think it'll look cute, but we'll have to see. I've not done this before. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to double crochet front post, back post all the way around until I hit where the double crochets end. Then I'm going to single crochet back to the beginning. Again, on this one, I'm gonna single crochet all the way to the beginning, but I'm not gonna chain one. I'm just gonna turn, and I'm gonna skip the first single crochet again when I turn around. All right, I've just made it back to my mark where I stitch marked so that I'll remember to do a single crochet into that last double crochet. And then I'm gonna single crochet all the way back down to the beginning, but at the end of the row, I'm not gonna chain one, I'm just gonna turn it around. And then I'm going to be repeating that same thing for a couple more rows. So I'm going to single crochet all the way to where the double crochets start. I'm going to single crochet into the first double crochet, and then I'm going to do front post, back post, double crochet on those other front post, back post, double crochets all the way until the single crochets start. Save for the last stitch of the double crochets. I'm going to single crochet into that last double crochet stitch. And then I'll single crochet back to where we start. I won't chain one, I'll just turn. And then I'll single crochet up to where the double crochets start again. I'll skip the first one of the double crochets, doing a single crochet in there, and then I'll repeat. I'm probably going to aim for 4 rows if I can, if I've got enough rows, if I've got enough yarn for it. And I will let you know exactly how many rows I end up with when I when I finish. So you can see there's a little lip there, but it's not a straight out lip, it's curving up with the collar, which is great. And I'm just gonna show you one more time what I mean when I say skip the first double crochet. I'm almost there. All right, so this is our first back post double crochet right here. I'm gonna single crochet into that, and then I'm gonna move into my front post, back post double crochets. And I'll do that around. So I'm gonna try and do that for 4 rows, 5 rows total. I'll let you know when I get to the end of it. But I'm just gonna zoom through that because it's the same thing. Single crochets here, front post, back post here, skipping the first one each time around. Okie dokie, here we go. I just finished my last row, so total I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I managed to get 5 rows in, which is awesome. There's that double front post, back post, double crochet ribbing, and you can see it transitions nicely into the single crochet. Now you can see there's that little angle here, oops, right here. One last thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go around the entire project, around all these bottom bits, the whole thing. I'm gonna start, I think I'll start at the bottom corner. I'm gonna use this sage green color, and I'm gonna just go around every edge, around the brown again. I'm gonna go around all of this just with a single crochet row, just to help with blending where those transitions happen. So I'm gonna do that now. And from there, da 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 da, the cardigan is finished. I decided in the end not to bother with buttons. I think that it looks cute as is. Plus, I can always add buttons after the fact. But it's done, it's finally done. I finished this. I've had this going for so long. I'm so happy to be done it, but also I'm so happy to be done because I'm so excited to be able to wear it. So, what do you think? Here, I love how all of the colors go together. I love how they all they work together because they're all natural. They're all from plants. What do you think though? Let me know in the comments below what you think of this cardigan and if you're gonna give it a shot, if you're gonna try making it. If you are, definitely tag me when you finish on Instagram at lastminutelaura_official. That's how you can tag me and I will see it. Anywho friends, that's all I've got for you today. I really hope that you're joining me on Finish It February. I'm really happy to have had this sweater done, and I hope to see you tomorrow on the live stream from 1 p.m. until 6 p.m. I'm going to be live streaming. I'm going to be crocheting my next project. Maybe I'll even be wearing this. So come join. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, leave a comment. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. And thank you to my patrons. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.